Okay, good morning, class. Today I'm going to be giving you your tests only. Make sure you access the speed building before you listen to this. So let me give you 1 minute, 180 lit for practice, okay, before your mock. Access the speed building before you access this test. This is 1 minute, 180. Mr. Speaker, on June 8, 1990, I introduced a House Joint Resolution number 348 calling for an immediate moratorium on the killing of baby seals to be established by international agreement. The baby seal currently inhabits the lands near the Arctic region. At present, several countries, including Japan, continue to hunt and slaughter baby seals by the thousands. Each year, hundreds of baby seals are clubbed to death and many are left to die in agony. Several conservationists in the United States have conducted studies that indicate that this slaughter is unnecessary. The carcass of the baby seal does not sufficiently add to anyone's gross national product. The environmental groups that have studied the migration habits of the seals indicate that their nesting and birthing grounds are threatened yearly by poachers. The Marine Mammal Protection Act sought to protect these animals, but has only been effective in limiting the number of baby seals killed each year. An agreement signed in April of 1983 commits 5 nations, England, Canada, the Soviet Union, Norway, and the United States. And so we have on your 180 lit, Vernon Clark, Todd Foster, Todd Hart, Foster's, Plymouth, Patrick Friel, Peaslee Canyon Road, States Exhibit 1, Officer Boutwell, Mr. Clark, Exhibit 4, Exhibit 6, Exhibit 5 and 6, Michael Boutwell, Detective Boutwell. And this is going to be 180 lit for your mock for 5 minutes, you all. Ladies and gentlemen, you have now heard all of the evidence in this case. The instructions have been read to you, and I'm going to speak to you now on a couple of subjects. Number 1, what happened, and number 2, what it means from the standpoint of the law. But first of all, I want to point out a few things that this case is not about. You have all heard the term drunk driving. This is not a drunk driving case. The term drunk driving does not appear in your instructions. The state is not required to prove drunkenness. It is not required to prove intoxication. It is required simply to prove that the defendant drove a motor vehicle while under the influence of an intoxicating liquor. That is to say that his ability to drive a vehicle was impaired in any appreciable degree. There are not necessarily any magic numbers in this case. Another thing that this case does not need to involve, is any question of intent. No one is arguing that Vernon Clark took to the road that morning intending to kill anybody. He didn't kill Todd Foster on purpose. That's not required with respect to the crime of vehicular homicide. We will get to the legal standards shortly, but I want to point out to you now that this is a case of vehicular homicide. It is a case of vehicular assault. Those terms have specific legal meanings, and that's what we are going to deal with in this case. Now, with respect to what happened, we are guided by the evidence. You have the testimony, you have the exhibits, the pictures tell the story. We know that Todd Hart and Todd Foster got into Foster's car and Old Plymouth. They were on the road early in the morning of the 4th of July, 1989. They were going to get cleaned up, go look for some friends, and celebrate the holiday. We know that Todd Foster had no alcohol in his body. After he was killed, a sample of blood was taken. That sample accurately reflected his body condition at the time he was killed, as Patrick Friel told you. He did not have any alcohol in his body. He drove the vehicle down the Peaslee Canyon Road downhill with Todd Hart in the passenger seat. Now, you have heard a lot of description of the Peaslee Canyon Road. As they drove down the Peaslee Canyon Road, this is what they saw. This is a downhill view. States Exhibit 1 is back from a distance. They covered this part of the road. You can see, for all intents and purposes, it is straight for a distance up to the point of the accident. Getting closer in the next exhibit, again, you can see the layout of the road. The surface is dry, as Officer Boutwell testified to you. This was going to turn into a good day. I think Mr. Clark was the one who said it was warm, he could sleep in his truck. It was a nice day. It was as clear as it needed to be. It was daylight. The road was straight. The pavement, as you can see, was quite good. You get closer, this is the view that they had going down the hill. The last view that Todd Foster had before the collision. Coming up the road in the oncoming lane is Vernon Clark driving a pickup truck, his own pickup truck that he had for 2 months. He was familiar with the road. He was familiar with the vehicle. It was 8 o'clock in the morning. The sky was clear. At least it wasn't raining. It was daylight. There were no problems. And this is what Vernon Clark would have seen. Beginning in Exhibit 4, you see here the uphill lane. There is a double lane here. It's uphill. This allows the vehicles to pass. Again, looking from the other direction, you can see what, for all intents and purposes, the road is straight. He called it a winding road. It may be in other parts, but not in the part where it made a difference. A closer view, Exhibit 5, you can see up in the corner here, you can see the road. It does curve up in the distance, and you can see how far the defendant could have seen the oncoming vehicle had he been paying attention. Even better, in Exhibit 6, you can see it goes up to the corner. You can see him coming for quite some distance. Exhibits 5 and 6 and the detective Michael Boutwell, who spoke to you, the accident reconstructionist, will tell you all that you need to know about how the accident occurred. You look at this photo, number 5, look at the 2 lanes that under the code of the highway were available to Vernon Clark. Look at the downhill lane that Todd Foster had. The accident happened across the center line. He crossed the center line at a place and time when there was only one reason for him to do so, and that's because he was under the influence of alcohol. There can be no other excuse for this accident, no other excuse for what happened to Todd Foster and Todd Hart. Detective Boutwell testified. And then we have 1 minute at 200 practice, you all.